Hello and welcome to Mutual Fund Talk. My name is Naveen Soni, and at Mutual Fund Talk, we talk about your investments and how you can make your investments in a way that they better your life going ahead. So we have today with us Kirti Gupta, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Today we are going to talk a little different. We are going to ask Kirti as to how things are changing in customer service. Kirti, thank you so much for joining us, first of all. And I hope you are keeping safe, your family is keeping safe.
Hey, thanks, Naveen. It's good to see you after after a long time. Thanks for asking me. My family are safe, and I hope the same for you. And I wish all my customers are safe, healthy, and taking the best out of this difficult scenario, and they're keeping themselves happy for most important.
Sure. So, to begin with, I want to ask you, because customer service is the most important aspect in any organization's operations. Now, how has the customer service changed during this time of lockdown or because of this pandemic?
So, Naveen, I would say the fundamentals of service have not changed. Still, customer is the most important stakeholder of our business. That remains constant. What have changed is how we are delivering the service out there. That's something which has gone under a drastic change, I would say. And the good part is it has changed at both the ends, from the organization itself and from the customer itself. And the good thing is we both have been aligned to that particular piece. So let's take an example. Earlier, a majority of customer service used to happen face-to-face interactions. Unless and until you see the person in front of you, neither the customer used to feel happy nor organization. That had a kind of a paradigm shift, and people are very comfortable in having a faceless communications. They have been able to use channels of service and communications which they were never comfortable of.
Right.
And keep quoting this example out there. Generally, we all used to talk that senior citizens would never be comfortable with different channels. And I think the biggest surprise have thrown to us is by our senior citizens. We have customers who are 70 years old, and they have started understanding how to use digital channels. And the exclamation statement they make is, why the hell we have not used this particular channel? There's no need for me to come to it. Saves me so much of a hassle. And I think that's the paradigm shift happening out there. We earlier used to get more calls at our call center and less emails at our call center. Now we have seen a complete shift. We've seen more than 25% increase in volumes of our emails out there. And keeping that in mind, we've started accepting transactions on email. You come back and says, okay, I'm still not comfortable in doing this way, but I'm very comfortable using email. He says, okay, send your transaction details on email and I'll be able to process it out. So I would say things have changed at both the levels. The customers have started using new channels, exploring it and finding it which channels is very comfortable. And as an organization, we have provided them every possible digital channels which you can use, explore and make yourself comfortable out there. So we have email, call centers, we have WhatsApp, we have chatbot, we have our digital assets websites as well as apps out there. Use, explore, make yourself comfortable out there. And if recently we are going live on the voice bots also, so you can use Google OK and says, Google OK, please connect me to Birla Mutual Fund.
Wow. Okay. So tell me something. How much of things now have moved online, and how much of them still remain offline? Because when a majority of things were earlier happening offline, and now that the people have learned how to use digital assets and how to make themselves comfortable and even make the transactions maybe now on email, Kirti?
So to give you a perspective at the industry level, from in the month of April, March is the place, March end, in the month of April, we had 96% transaction which came in the digital form at the industry level.
Almost like complete thing, isn't it?
Phenomenal, I would come up and say. And they have used every available channels out there. They have used various platforms which are company specific, which are R&T specifics, which are provided by third-party platform, which are provided by MFU. People have used all those platforms, and 96% of our transactions have come through digital channels.
Wow, that's huge. So do you think that's going to stay and people will now get used to it, or you think once the branches open up and behavior will probably go back to what it was earlier?
Naveen, I believe there would be a definitely shift happening. So will the 100% shift happen? I'm not sure out there, but I definitely believe that the shift would be significant and substantial out there. Because the beauty of digital assets is once you get used to it and comfortable, then it's very difficult for you to go back. I'll tell my own story. 5 years back, before I joined mutual fund, I used to do my transactions in a physical form. And when I joined mutual fund, I was exploring all digital assets and saying is, let me understand how this particular process happens. And when I started using the website, there's no looking back. I do not use the physical channels. And in fact, in my organization, I went ahead and said, no employees in the Birla AMC can use a physical mode of transactions. That's the kind of a comfort. So receding back is very, very difficult unless and until you had a very bad experience. Or you believe very, very uncomfortable based on certain kind of a paranoid probably you have.
Okay. So, that brings me to the question, what are the new things that you had to introduce and you have introduced now after this lockdown? Because there may have been certain things which were already happening in the digital way, but you might have to have big changes which then made it entire process more digital or smoother also.
Yeah. Naveen, I would say as an organization, we had good number of both financial transactions and facilities available on our various digital assets. But there were very non-financial transactions which are not available. And that happens predominantly because you're not comfortable from a risk perspective. You're not comfortable that you will be able to provide an end-to-end journey. But we realized those transactions were very, very important out there. So I think we set again on the drawing board and says, in these kind of a scenario, when person can't come to my branch, it's very, very important for me to provide that particular kind of a transactions to be able to done. So practically, barring 1 or 2 transactions, we have ensured every possible transactions is available on my website or on my digital assets. So let's take an example. Somebody wants to change his bank account. Earlier, for various perspectives, is not possible. During this process, we made that live and we built various kind of controls. Like changing bank account can pose a big kind of a fraud, financial fraud out there. So we were very reluctant on doing that particular piece. But we went to the drawing board, built good number of controls around there and says, okay, that's a facility people really want to use. And especially in these kind of times when people want to, let's say, redeem out there or want to make an additional investment, this becomes very important. So we did that. We even went ahead and says, okay, if there's any kind of a specific demographic kind of a details you want to change, we provided that facilities. We provided, you want to make a change of nominations or you want to give a kind of a transmissions, we provided them various digital channels that this is the channel you can use and do a transaction. So I would say a very few incidences where based on the regulatory requirement, I need to have a kind of a wet signatures or I need to have a face-to-face validation. Everything else have been provided on the digital assets. We can take request on the digital assets and we will ensure with the kind of controls I need to do a validation out there and we will be able to. And you will be amazed we did development of all those things during the lockdown period. And
yeah, I mean, so it's like when it's a necessity, then one does it. Now tell me something, because some people may be very resistant to change. Some people may easily lap it up. There are demographics in terms of the age, in terms of the location, availability of the network. Did you also do some kind of a training exercise? Are you also doing that even now? So that, people learn things in an efficient manner and then they start using comfortably rather than thinking, oh, it's been imposed upon us and there's no other way, we have to do it. So what is the kind of training element that you have brought in to make customers aware and comfortable?
Naveen, that's very, very important point, and I would really thank my colleagues in making that happen. My colleagues have interacted. There were various customers who comes up and says, "I've never used this digital assets, and do you expect me to use that?" One. There were various customers who are uncomfortable. There were good number of set of people who believes that I do not want to do a financial transactions on a digital assets because probably they had some kind of a bad experience in the past, or they've heard a kind of a bad experience.
Right.
The team and people have handholded, guided them that please look, this is the way this needs to be done. We have provided them stage level information. So it has happened that somebody has done a kind of a transactions. We used to be on the call and tell, look, I have got a confirmation. I've received money from your account to my account. Look,
okay,
I'm telling you this particular. When you do these kind of a hand holding, people feel comfortable. So that happens on the customers. The one very important thing that you need to do, you need to train your own staff. At this particular point of time, the customer on the other end, one, the external environment, the environment is such that people are fearful and they both have needs also. And when you have a need and you have a fear, things can become far more paranoid in nature. You need to train your own people out there that in these kind of difficult times, how you're supposed to respond and handhold a customer. So we provided good number of inputs to our own people out there and says, this is the way you need to handle this. Psychologically, people are into a very different mindset. So earlier when you're sitting, then you know that the person is smiling or the person is angry. Today you may not know. So we train our own people that in difficult times, how you're supposed to handle a customer, how you're supposed to understand his requirements, how you're supposed to understand his stated and unstated needs and fears out there and help it out. I think that has been very, very important aspect, and that has helped us. I would say in last 40, 50 days, the number of customers email appreciating has come to me. I would say I have not seen that kind of a response from a customer in last 5, 6 years.
Wow,
people have come back and appreciated because you have been able to make a significant change in their lives.
So
I would say
it's actually making a difference, right? It's actually giving you more ease of business, so to say, and bring people to you more quickly, being serviced more quickly and efficiently. So that's making customers happy, is it?
Yes. So what I think the customers have appreciated out here, that they have been able to understand that if you're saying something which is critical, they have been able to get the service much faster. Probably in a physical world, what was happening much faster out there, because people at the other end also understand.
Okay.
The another big aspect happens is when people also understand that out of my requirement of 3, 2 are critical and 1 is not critical. The customer is also understand, please help me out this and send this particular piece me later out there. I understand it's not a kind of a extremely critical. It's good to have, please send it to me at a point when you are able to service all the critical needs of the customer. So I think that whole rapport has been very, very good.
Okay, so that means even the customer is evolving and becoming mature.
Oh yes, yes, now, very, very true.
KYC, that's something which has to be done very, very diligently. All the documents have to be checked. The person to which the documents need to be aligned to, they also need to be physically present. So that's been the kind of scenario. And banks, mutual fund companies or insurance companies, everybody, because the finances are involved, they have been very strict, and they have been, the processes also have been very, very rigid sometimes in terms of the KYC. How has that changed? Are you acquiring new customers? There are some repetitive KYCs which need to be done after a certain period. So how is that changing?
Your point is very valid, Naveen, out there, that I think KYC, we had gone with Aadhaar in a very, very easiest way to do a KYC, and unfortunately that piece has taken a kind of a few step backward, and now we are again saying that. But during this particular process, you've seen the industry has acquired significant number of new customers, and so have we. Fortunately, we had some digital mechanisms to acquire our customers. So we have been able to acquire new customers from those particular channels out there. But with the Aadhaar being allowed now, the industry will be able to make this far more easier out there. So I agree that KYC is little difficult, but with both the regulator as well as the company, with the new regulations, we are making things far more easier, that we will be able to use, acquire new customers using Aadhaar XML and Aadhaar OTP based. So that work on that particular piece is going on out there. But yes, we had video based KYC out there. And with that, we have been able to acquire a good number of new customers out there.
Okay, and who would have thought that KYC is possible on a video-based platform, not sitting face-to-face, right?
Yeah. So now we have a mechanism. We do both the customer's liveliness, the customer's validation of documents. We have attached a link for online validation through various other intermediaries and issuing authorities. So we have been able to do that particular.
Okay. Tell me something. What are the things which still need to be done offline or physically? One has to come to the branch and do it, or everything is now available on the digital platforms?
So let's take an example. There's a transmission requirement.
Okay.
The kind of complications which are there in that particular process. A person can give a request, but if it's far more complicated, then I will have to ask the person to come to a branch and do a kind of a validation. But I would say, barring that, there's nothing which is not possible on the digital assets. Transmission is little sensitive, and that too also, I can take a request through a digital medium. If it's plain and simple case, let's take an example. If there's a nomination already registered in the folio out there and the transmission request came, there's no point, I can do it in seamless manner. But let's take an example, there's no nomination out there, and then I need to validate so many more documents and handhold. So those are the kind of things probably in that scenario will not be able to do it, but rest all we are being able.
Okay, now let's talk about your workforce. Some of the workforce may have been aligned to the offline mode. Some of them may have already been working digitally. You said you've trained them enough. Now, combined, how are they now operating? Is your entire workforce almost on digital platform now? Are they servicing customers? Because if they are on digital and they don't have to attend to customers, their bandwidth also gets freed in some way, that they are able to service more customers. And how has that reduced your time to respond? Because there is a certain minimum time. Every time you ask for a service, people say, okay, up to 3 working days. So, that's a very typical in the industry. So has that now changed or reduced because people have more bandwidth to service?
I don't want my CA to listen this particular question. So I'll split this particular piece in 2-3 things. I think what helped Birla Sun, our organization, was that we prepared ourselves much in advance. And as an organization, we tested 100% work from home even before the lockdown was announced out there. Okay. And this particular piece helped us out in doing all what we did during this lockdown period. And again, I would come back and say, we are the first organizations, barring Mumbai or certain places which are into a strict red zone, we have opened all our branches out there.
Okay.
Yes, there's good amount of learnings from for us out there, and we would definitely evaluate and say, during this kind of a scenario, there's a merit in doing work from home, but there's also merit in doing some. So we would evaluate all our process and saying is what makes sense to do remotely, what makes sense to do in person out there, and that's the way the organization is taking a kind of a call. But to tell that, all my branches are open. So if anybody wants to still come and do a physical transactions or take kind of an advice or understand some service request or see that in this new scenario, how they're supposed to work and do out there, we are open and you are more than welcome to come in our branch. We are happy to see you out there. That happens one particular part out there. But your point is very, very valid. The things would evaluate. The tax kind of a scenario, which is required to have so that we understand that what we are doing is at this point. But are we doing everything? So let's take an example. If I tell somebody that I'll give you an account statement in 4 hours, does that mean giving it, I might be giving him 4 seconds. By the time he keeps the phone down at my call center, the mail has already been shot out. But these are the SLA, service level. You need to make certain kind of a commitment to a customer. So when we talk about tax and SLAs, these are the kind of commitments that you're making, that please be rest assured your work would be done within this. But that doesn't mean that's the outer limit. Otherwise, person does not know when he's going to get, how he's going to get. So I would come up and say these are more operational in nature and not service in nature kind of. You will see that people does. So you're saying is KYC. There have been scenarios where in 5 minutes we have been able to complete KYC out there.
Okay.
So those things would happen, but your point is very valid. Things would get evolved in a new level, and we are constantly evaluating that in which way our customer wants us to interact with, in which way our distributors wants to interact with us, and we are aligning. The good thing which is happening is, I think after this, we'll be able to understand what is the preferred choice of a customer or a distributor. Do he wants to talk to me on my website, or through email, or through my call center, or through my branch, or he prefers Facebook or a Twitter? Another very important, Naveen, when you brought it, we had customers who would only talk through Twitter.
Okay.
Which never used to happen. The person used to go to a Twitter or a Facebook or any other as a last resort. But now they use that as a first. So we would be making that kind of a segmentation within our customer base and see what is his preferred mode of communications, what is his preferred mode of transactions, and then we would align our backend based on his needs and requirements, and we will start responding in accordingly. I think that's the kind of an evolution we'll all be making it up.
Okay. So, one of the things which is very, very comfortable for a customer to do, and also in a sense essential from his mental point of view, is that he wants to talk to someone and discuss about the investment. So operationally, while you may have taken care of everything, but that comfort of talking to someone and asking, okay, where should I invest? Should I now get out, or should I increase my investment? So how are you ensuring that people get that comfort and they're able to talk to their advisors?
Naveen, you are asking me to spill all my beans. No surprises left.
That's from a customer's point of view, right?
Very important. So if we already have explored and given the robo advisory, but definitely we are doing some kind of an R&D out there. So the way you and I are talking, or tomorrow we will be able to talk to people, somebody on, despite being non-physical personal mode, we are evaluating that particular piece, and it may happen that tomorrow myself and my customer are able to talk on a video call and says, okay, you need this. Okay, do you have this particular? Show it to me on video, and I would be able to, oh, this is fine, not fine. Okay, send it to me and do. Okay. So we are doing that kind of an R&D, and probably we would be able to go live soon on that. So there are various kind of things that we need to work it out, but the work is on. So it can happen that my salesperson would be able to do a video chat with my IFA, with my customers, with any of my stakeholders, and give them the advisory, help them and align their concerns, give them the kind of a guidance which they look, give them the service which they are looking at.
Okay. So now towards the end, I would like to ask you, when the lockdown started and now when we are opening up, so what are the things that have changed, and what are the things that you think are going to change going forward also? Because post-COVID scenario also may change. Like you were saying, these kind of changes people are now getting comfortable with. So what are the critical things that you think now also need to be going forward changed?
So the first and foremost, I think people will definitely move to digital assets. The physical interaction in post-COVID scenario will not go, I believe, to the pre-COVID, but the humans have the ability to surprise everything every point of a time. But this is what we believe out there, that this would happen. And keeping that in mind, we would ensure that everything which they want to do is available digitally. as we have already done it. But we would ensure at this, if it is partially digital and at the back end we are doing it, we would try and make everything end-to-end digital, so the person is able to get that instant gratifications that we keep talking about. We are able to provide them that particular feature also in the post-COVID scenario. For that, as I mentioned it to you, we would have to do lot kind of an activity at the back end. We need to build various kind of controls, the governance mechanism, because these are financial transactions, the people's money is involved. We need to ensure and take every possible precautions that's happening. So I would come up with that would change out there. The another important aspect that we need to do from a psychological perspective, that how person reacts in a difficult time, right? We've seen both a physical, a COVID scenario, and then we have also seen an economic, causing the kind of an economic vulnerability and volatility. We need to have far more engaging communications and interactions and engagement with our stakeholders, so that we equip ourselves as well as them to meet these kind of requirements. So our response and we respond and don't react to these kind of things, because not when we see these kind of things would happen, we need to accept at particular point that these kind of things would happen far more frequently probably. So how we can prepare ourselves, that's what to work it out. And it's not just preparing myself, we need to prepare organization, and we need to help prepare our stakeholders also. So those things we would need to work it out. Definitely important, the communication would change. How we communicate and what we communicate would go under a sea change out there, and I think that would get aligned to the expectations and behavior of the changed customers.
Well, I hope all this change is for better, and we don't have to deal with such situation as COVID anytime. But these are the realities of life, which come and which also go. But then new realities may come. But thank you so much, Kirti, for joining us and telling us how things are changing, how things need to change, and what are the things that now customers can avail of. So very insightful. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you very much for having this. This was really good. Enjoy. Thank you.
So this was Mutual Fund Talk about customer service, how you can avail a better customer service, a new customer service on a new landscape from Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. We'll be back again with another episode of Mutual Fund Talk. Till then, goodbye. This is Naveen Soni, your host, saying goodbye.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.